This episode of Tekzilla is sponsored by the fine folks at Domain.com, Applian, and Netflix. Coming up on this episode, a very special guest, Veronica Belmont's doing the co-hosting thing. We're going to save your old serial devices. We're going to help you shop for a UPS. And we're going to talk a little HD, DVD, Blu-ray drive, home theater, PC thing, and a ton more stuff coming up on today's Tekzilla. Welcome to Tekzilla. I'm Patrick Norton.
And I'm Veronica Belmont.
And we should point out right now, if we seem a little distant, Veronica has only had one dose of NyQuil, and I'm certainly not suffering from sleep deprivation involved to teething babies.
Not
Despite
one bit.
that, no, not in the least bit. You sure you didn't have a second shot?
I'm okay. It may have been the peppermint schnapps that's doing it for me now, but I think the NyQuil I'm good with.
Peppermint schnapps is good for a cold. We've got a great show lined up for you today. Coming up, we're going to actually talk about why you don't really have to sweat, like an uninterruptible power supply, why you may not need to worry about the battery inside of it. USB to serial port adapters, because I actually have a few $100s worth of serial port devices I refuse to replace because I'm cheap. And Blu-ray HD DVD drives, and how you can turn your PC into a home theater monster.
Nice.
Yes.
Good stuff.
Because, I mean, do you have like this giant stack of Blu-ray and HD DVD players at home?
We have a couple. We have a few. I mean, we've got the PS3 going on. We've got the HD DVD drive for the Xbox 360.
Oh, nice.
And that's pretty much it. We just have the console thing going around.
That's pretty easy then.
Yeah.
And no switching issues, because one's going to be composite and the other one's going to be component, actually, I should say, not composite. We got the HD DVD going over the S video.
That sleep thing.
It looks so pretty. Anyhow, IrfanView is our free download, and as always, your viewer questions. But before we begin, for those not familiar with Veronica's vast body of work, you're vast now. Your body of work is vast.
Wow, that's pretty good for a few
Yes,
years.
actually,
Yeah.
you should know her from Mahalo Daily. If you haven't seen Mahalo Daily, I suggest you run or sprint there. What's the website?
The website is daily.mahalo.com, and you can check out all our episodes. We've had a lot of great stuff in the past month. We've been, a little bit general interest, but these days we're gearing more towards the geeky kind of nerd culture, which is what I'm really into.
The kitten juggling again?
The kitten juggling. Yeah, you like that? And so we have an interview with Stan Lee. We went to a Star Trek convention recently. It was a lot of fun.
Now, I understand you are actually trying to get someone to make you a Star Trek outfit. If someone makes you a Star Trek outfit, you will wear it.
No, see, that was not me.
What's the story?
Okay, that goes back to Cranky Geeks. That was John C. Dvorak.
Okay.
We were talking about Star Trek and the new movie coming out, and I don't know how it came up, something about a costume, and he said if anyone would make me a costume, would I wear it? And I said yes.
Okay.
And then that never happened, and then when the video about the Star Trek tour came out, everyone was like, well, this seems like a perfect opportunity for you to wear that costume, but it never happened, so.
We need a costume for you.
Yeah.
What kind of character would you like to be out of the Star Trek universe?
I want to be the classic Trek.
The classic
The girl
Trek.
costume from classic Trek.
Do we need to get you like a red shirt so you're killed on that mission?
No!
Okay.
I don't want to be the ensign.
Gold shirt or blue shirt is safe. What's that one? The URL again? Uniform.
The URL is daily.mahalo.com.
Okay. Now, Apple, of course, has introduced a new iPod and a new iPhone with greater storage capacity. Do you care?
No,
you
I'm
bitter?
actually kind of irritated about it. I'm a happy early adopter, so I have the original iPhone, and but then my big advice to everyone has always been don't buy, until after Macworld.
Because your praise of Macworld
Right.
comes and you know whether or not it's safe to buy because
Exactly.
you've seen what's coming up.
You expect that they're going to make all their big announcements at Macworld, and then you'll be safe to purchase after that point. But no.
No.
I feel terrible for all the people who I told to wait until after Macworld, and I actually know specifically a few people who I told to not buy,
Oh,
who went
it'll
out
be
and bought
fine.
because nothing major was announced, and now they have higher capacity.
So 32 gigabytes for the iPod, 16 gigabytes for the iPhone, $4.99 for each one of them. I'm sure I don't
no,
see
I'm not gonna buy
3G.
one.
Like they're not being specific about maybe there's any other hardware mods, but no 3G. What's the point of upgrading?
Well, I mean, if you watch a lot of video and if you're doing that kind of thing, I mean, if you're watching a lot of video podcasts, hint, hint, the higher capacity would be good.
Although we enjoy you watching video podcasts in any format, which is why we make so many formats available.
Exactly.
Sorry.
So no, I'm not going to buy one. I mean, I think it's still a great product, and I, recommend it.
Right.
But personally, no dice.
Hey, Blackberries actually have a little port on the side. You can put more memory in.
Oh, that's really special.
That's nice.
You trying to rub it in?
No,
That's
well, I own
nice.
an iPhone
That's
too.
real nice.
Roger actually is the one with the BlackBerry. Anyhow, and it actually, Vista SP1.
Yes, exactly. The new service pack for Vista.
The one that'll make everything right.
Yeah, sure. I'll believe that when I see it.
Well, I mean, they've done some. Okay, Service Pack 1 coming out in March. They've done a bunch of tweaks to it, which, amongst other things, will like reduce the amount of pain and suffering when you're doing things like copying files.
Right. They said in mid-March we'll release Windows Vista SP1 to Windows Update in English, French, Spanish, German, and Japanese, and to the Download Center on Microsoft.com.
Betas are actually floating around of it right now. People have been running it. I'm waiting because I'm getting timid in my old age. Yeah, I just want to see. There's a good list of fixes, though.
Yeah, I don't have a PC at home, but I would probably upgrade given the chance.
We have several. I have one running Vista at home, and I'm definitely, when the Service Pack ships, I am all over it. Like stink on a cat.
Your cat smell?
No.
It's terrible.
Well, it's a long cat. It's an old cat. Bandit, I'm sorry. Okay.
I hope you don't talk that way about babies.
No,
No?
my baby never stinks.
Oh, sure.
My sweatshirt that my baby puked on last night probably stinks right about now. But that's a washing thing. Comments from the viewers, which are much more engaging than milk stories. Keith has an interesting comment about the GOM player. He writes, GOM is Korean for bear, which is why you see a bear paw marking on the player. I got into GOM because it played DivX files on a P400. That's a 400 megahertz Pentium machine back in the day, and it blew his mind. On a good day, he can drop the link for the video download and watch your video, just like streaming, and it has a long O, so that would be GOM, and it hurts when you pronounce it any other way. GOM, I apologize. We had it right at first. So GOM rocks. He's been using it for a really long time, and he doesn't even use the media player anymore. Actually, I take that back. He uses GOM and VLC. Keith, thanks for writing in on that one.
Thank you very much. The mystery over that pronunciation has been solved, I guess.
At least for now, until I start mispronouncing it again.
Now, the next couple of comments are about the cell phone cancer issue that you and Kevin were apparently talking about in the last show, because, you know, I watched it, I swear. This
Kevin's
email
afraid
comes
of the
from
ass
Jim.
cancer.
He writes, just watch the Tekzilla episode wherein you were talking about the irradiance from a cell phone. That doesn't sound right to me. Irradiance? Irradiance.
Yeah, but he's a physicist.
Take it from the physicist. All this pronunciation is really hard on cough medicine. There is nothing to worry about. The solar constant is about 750 watts
per square meter.
per square meter, thank you.
You're
Meaning
welcome.
on a sunny day, your scalp is getting about 27 of these watts. The best only 1.5 watts from your cell phone antenna is headed in your direction, and that energy is at much longer wavelength than visible light.
So in theory, it's not going to creep inside your skull and cause your brain to fry.
I mean, so if you're standing like underneath a giant cell tower, if like your office is underneath a giant cell tower, is that going to affect you eventually?
Generally speaking, like if there's a nose cone on a plane that has radar behind it, you don't want to be in front of that. You know, you don't want to be up in the radar tower with the really high power stuff. But they're saying the cell phones are so low power and it's such a short wavelength you don't have to worry about.
I have
Such
a
long
quick aside. I recently did a shoot at SLAC, which is the Stanford Linear Accelerator Center.
Which is awesome when you get over the terror.
It was really cool. And I was a little concerned about the radiation because there were signs all over the place saying, you know, do not go in this zone, you're going to get radiation. They had these little badges that would turn black, you know, if you had too much radiation.
Right.
But the thing with the badges
Because it's a particle accelerator.
is they only check them once a year. So you could be fried and then get this letter from the radiation people being like, P.S., you know, you're in
done.
trouble. But they said you said you have more of a chance of getting high radiation levels from traveling a lot in airplanes because you're that much closer to the radiation from the sun.
But they have to do these things to be safe.
Yes.
It's amazing facility because it's like, you know, miles, this underground tube. And
2 miles long.
It's scary.
I won't tell you any more though because I want you to watch the episode.
Oh, well, is that at...
It's not coming up yet. Daily.mahalo.com.
Okay. That was followed by Jim's email. This is pretty good, too. Kevin and Patrick, I was watching Tekzilla episode 18, and I heard your question about cell phone radiation. While I have worked with high-power transmitters and other RF sources, I didn't know a good answer to the question, does RF give me cancer / cause birth defects? That would be bad. I would recommend you watch Physics for Future Presidents. It's a series of lectures by Professor Richard A. Mueller of Berkeley College who covers physics at the level that even I can understand, which means there's a hope, Jim, that even I could understand it. So that one I'm definitely actually starting to watch. It's pretty amazing stuff.
Good to know. So you think we're safe with the whole cell phone cancer thing?
We got a number of other letters from engineers and physicists that were like, relax, especially
Chill
Kevin.
out.
Kevin, you know, he's holding the antenna and he's like, it's okay. It's not to worry.
Big babies.
Well,
Every last one of you.
okay. Miss, I'm afraid of my badge at the nuclear It
wasn't nuclear.
Particle accelerator.
Darn, I said it wrong.
Nuclear. Finally, we got some great responses to last week's stencil segment. The first one comes from Steven, who writes in, I think the easiest tool to use to make a stencil would be colors, and then go into the threshold tool in GIMP. It's also in Photoshop, and it'll give you a very customizable way to create a template. Also, Inkscape has a very nice bitmap tracing tool, and we're going to talk about Inkscape a little later. It's an open source tool like Illustrator. It's amazing. It's actually really, really cool, basically creating vector art instead of bitmapped art.
That's really cool. I love stencils.
We did a whole bunch of them.
Yeah. Have you seen, there's a lot of collections on Flickr online of people that walk around and take pictures of stencils that they see in the city and then post them up. It's a good thing to collect.
Send us some links.
Maybe I will.
We'll post them.
And the next email comes from Christopher. He writes, I do stencil work on drum heads in Stavanger, Norway. Oh, I hope it's some Norwegian death metal stuff over there.
It looks
I have
like
my
it,
own
actually.
music shop in Stavanger, and the stencil work is just for fun to see how my work will look.
And actually, the website's up here. The website of the unpronounceable name that is on the lower third right now. Oh.
Ooh.
Speaking of, we got the scary German eagle action, Basketak. I'm thinking there's a little 80s hair metal.
Little influence there?
Oh, there we go. We got the death metal.
Nice.
I like it.
Metallica.
Yay.
Very cool. I want him to come do some work on my Guitar Hero 3 controllers. That would be pretty sick.
Would you do a stencil for that?
Yeah.
Get you the Iron Cross and all that stuff?
Ooh, nice.
She's such the rocker. One more thing before we go. Kevin writes, hey Patrick, I'm pretty new to stenciling. He's been doing it for about 3 months, and he's got some work he wants to send us. I do all my work on cardboard to stay legal, as in not spray painting sidewalks. Hope to see more segments on urban art. Kevin, we will do our best when we see sort of a crossover between the whole technology and urban art thing. Well, thank everybody for sending in your comments and your art, and we're going to try to include emails that didn't make it into the show in the show notes. And do us a favor, if you want to get something off your chest, you want to show us something cool, you can email us Tekzilla@revision3.com. We're especially fascinated when we show you getting your tech on, or when you show us getting your tech on just outside of the normal desktop living room environment. That's actually pretty cool stuff. Before we move on, we need to give a shout out to one of our fabulous sponsors, Netflix, ladies and gentlemen. If you like high def, you can now get both HD DVD and Blu-ray movies and shows through Netflix. Get a free trial out of them simply by signing up through the site they set up for us at netflix.com/Tekzilla. And as always, it is Tekzilla with a K and a Z and an Illa. Okay, let's say you've got a tremendously expensive, maybe a couple $100, some MIDI controllers from like when you were in the band, or in my case, an auto tap, like a $200-300 ODB2 reader, or OBD2 reader, if I say it using the letters in the right order, a GPS device, and your new PC doesn't have a serial port. Your host, right? Oh, don't make that noise. It's such a sad noise. You can do what my buddy Curtis does for the gadget that controls his fuel injection. He basically has an old 300 megahertz Pentium notebook, an old IBM, lives in his toolbox, and he does nothing but use it for that particular device. That's a possibility if you got space for a spare notebook. Or you could actually try one of these gadgets, which is a serial port adapter. I'm not going to give you a brand on this because I've never actually seen the same brand of these twice at my local computer store.
That sounds promising.
They're rarely more than $20. Actually, you know what it is? I think it's one of those commodity things. And like USB cables, there's lots of places they'll sell you an expensive USB cable because, you know, you need a $300 USB cable to connect your printer. There was a certain brand we mentioned earlier that's extraordinarily expensive, but it's digital, right? So your audio quality, your print quality is not going to be affected by a cheap cable, generally speaking. But yeah, these I think so few people buy these. Mm-hmm. They just buy whatever's cheap when they're buying from the distributor.
So do they always work?
They don't always work, which has, I think, a lot less to do with the cable than the devices. Because a lot of serial devices, maybe there's no drivers for them anymore.
Oh, the driver support.
Yeah, or especially under Vista in a lot of cases. A lot of stuff would work under Windows XP. You know, and you get to Vista and suddenly the whole driver thing falls apart, which has happened for a lot of printers and stuff like that. So for an old GPS device, maybe I wouldn't be too shocked. The cords themselves, basically you rip it out of the package, you know, you get your help of your small child and a butcher knife to get the blister pack open. Plug it into your XP or Vista machine. It's basically going to automatically load drivers inside of there. I usually restart and then just plug in your serial device. In this case, we've got a fabulous little car chip. And we're not going to show the application running because it'll put everyone to sleep who isn't asleep already. But it's not a bad way. Like, you know, I don't particularly want to spend a couple $100 to replace, you know, a code reader. But with one of these cables, I can actually make it work.
Good deal. Good
Yeah.
deal. Not bad. So let's take another email.
Okay.
This one is from Ryan. Something about UPSs. He writes, I'm looking to buy a new UPS and I'm willing to spend up to $200. I was looking at the APC UPSs with the LCD screen, but the batteries are not replaceable. Where can I find a reliable UPS that has a replaceable battery with enough outlets for my PC gear?
All right, it's from Brian in South Dakota. Okay, first of all, should we explain what an uninterruptible power supply is?
Please do.
Okay, so it's a device like this, and it's one end of it plugs into your wall, gets your 120 volt AC. You've got a battery inside of the device itself, and the battery is connected to an inverter. So if the power goes out, this is going to very quickly switch from the now dead wall supply of electricity, or the current that comes from the power company, to the battery that's inside of this. So there's also the really cool ones. Actually, they go from the wall. The wall charges the battery, and then the battery goes to an inverter, and the inverter goes to your machine. So actually, you're always actually kind of running off battery power in those cases, and those do a really good job with power conditioning. So Ryan, actually, the model you listed, almost every APC that I know of actually does have a replaceable battery. As a matter of fact, you're going to actually have to install the battery yourself, and this is not the same model. It's kind of a shame. The link you sent me was to an Amazon web page. It's okay.
Like,
Keep your life easy. For most of these, you're actually going to have to basically take the battery out and install the connectors on there. And it's just really hard to tell, both from APC's page and the Amazon page, that there is a replaceable battery in there. It gets pretty clear in the user manual and probably on the side of the box. Now, the thing that's actually kind of interesting about these is this is a much smaller wattage model that you're looking at on the table, but the battery life on these, they're on the manual, it says like 3 to 6 years in typical usage. And I actually talked to a rep from APC, and they're saying their batteries are lasting like 4 to 7 years. So this is your classic, in most cases, lead acid battery. It's typical of the alarm battery you've showed for a couple projects on here. And yeah, it's basically either take off a couple screws, slide a door, and you just plug things back in. So red's for positive, black's for negative. They got the terminals set up, and then you just pop it back together.
Not bad.
Yeah, and actually, if you're really thinking about the whole point of this, right, is to, if the power goes out, to allow your machine to gracefully shut itself down. And one of the coolest things out there. Is APC's calculator on there. And if you're doing the college thing and you want to save some cash, right, you might want to consider skipping the Cool Guy LCD panel readout version, which is like $200, $170 on the street, and pick up like a 750 volt amp for like $100. Which basically there's no Cool Guy LCD screen on this, but it does communicate to your machine via a UPS port. And if you want more runtime for your machine, you might consider not connecting the printer and the speakers, because he had a long list of items he wanted to connect to it. And if you actually want to have some real fun, go to APC's UPS selector. You can see that fabulous URL up on your screen, and spec out your machine for a 4-hour runtime on battery power. From your like $500-$600 on the street, you can actually run your computer and your 2 monitors and your printer and your speakers and probably your router, assuming the cable hasn't gone out or the DSL hasn't gone out, and continue to game well into the wee small hours of the morning.
Thank
even
goodness.
after the power's out. I like uninterruptible power supplies. But I also still live in a part of Jersey where everyone they would like fight turning on their air conditioning.
Like brownouts all over the area.
Yeah, like at 1 in the morning. You basically tell when everybody given up, not being able to sleep without air conditioning. And we would have these crazy renders running on these Mac 2CIs. It would take 24 to 48 hours. So there was 8 machines running kind of constantly, and on a bad, it'd be like a Thursday night, all of a sudden like 8 of these would start going off. It was down the hall from my room. And I'd have to like stumble up and make sure the parachute software was automatically shutting everything down. And actually, in case you're wondering, I've heard good things about models from Tripline and Belkin, but I've been buying APC models myself for over a decade. I don't see much reason to stop yet. In fact, this is one of the 2 I just bought to protect machines in my house.
Looks pretty sturdy.
It's they're pretty, it's a pretty, I guess you would call robust to stable technology at this point. Not lead acid battery, inverter, switch, UPS port, or UPS port. That's a new one.
Inventing words every day.
It's like a UPS port. USB, I think, would be what most people would call it. Did I mention the teething, the small child? Anyhow, I want to take a minute to thank yet another sponsor, Tekzilla. With Applian's Replay Capture Suite, you're going to have all the power you need to record any video or audio you can see or hear online and save it directly to your Windows PC. The Replay Capture Suite is made up of 8 software programs that provide you all the tools you need to record radio, capture music, download video, or convert and edit your recorded files into whatever format for whatever device you want. Just visit applian.com/Tekzilla and discover the incredible recording power of the Replay Capture Suite. Enter Tekzilla into the source field and get $15 off the price of the 8 programs in the suite.
It's time now for our free download pick of the week. This week's pick, the IrfanView client.
Oh boy, this is actually what I wish there was a proper version of on OS 10. Because Preview in OS 10 stinks compared to Preview in XP and Preview in Vista. Especially in Vista, actually. And there's a whole bunch of tools out there. I want to say Zog would be one of them. And, oh man, the little yellow one with the television that runs at like 1/4 speed. I'm not even going to get into that because we're going to talk about IrfanView right now. Basically, it's for actually sampling pictures. And so, okay, this is really silly, right? We've got a giant picture in there. But if I go to the IrfanView thumbnails, check this out. I pick up a folder with my files in it, and I can go in and do a fast look through in there. And of course, I've got the big part is I've got the thumbnails in there. Now, we only have a few files inside of this because, this isn't a machine we keep a lot of pictures on. But it allows me to basically quickly get a look at what's going on inside of there. I can dig in, I can dig out, and I can actually do some basic editing on that. So we can do a crop selection. So let's say I go in there and I'm going to try to actually image. Basically all the resizing. Actually, it's really cool. You can actually automate and go through and control fix for those to change them. But basically, the best thing I like about this is actually browsing thumbnails. If you have hundreds of pictures, and you find it frustrating if you're looking for one particular picture, that's like the OS 10 thing, because you have to open up one at a time, and a lot of the applications don't work that well. IrfanView, I've actually opened up folders with over 200 or 300 pictures on it, and they open fast, and you can slide between them fast, and you can preview them really fast.
I do that in Preview on OS 10, though. I can open up a good number of pictures at the same time. It may not be instantaneous, but I do that quite a bit.
But can you preview them in a folder? Like, can you preview folders of pictures without opening up every single picture inside of it?
I don't know. I guess not. No, I don't think so.
No. Anyhow, IrfanView, it's free, it's available. There's a ton of tools inside of it we haven't even come close to touching, despite my tremendously bad demo of resizing images in there. It's pretty slick because basically it allows you to really speedily work through stuff. I used to use a lot at trade shows when you had to resize a bunch of stuff to fit a website.
Or live blogging.
There's a one.
That would be a good one.
Blogging, that's a new thing to me.
This whole blogging concept.
Twitter. Pounce.
Twitter. Pounce.
Micro communications.
Oh yeah, thanks by the way to everyone who added me on Pounce after last week's show.
Sorry about that.
That was pretty cool. No, it was cool. It was very awesome.
Like 9,000 fans or something?
Yes. No, not 9,000.
5,000?
Getting up to in the threes, I think. Yeah.
I think I have 8.
I added you.
Oh, thank you so much. Kevin hasn't added me, but I'll talk to him about that in the streets later on. Moving on, a couple of weeks ago, I mentioned about trying out a Blu-ray HD DVD drive in one of our PCs. We actually showed you the HD DVD kit that goes with the Xbox 360 and basically running it on a PC. And actually, one of the things you can check out is a combo HD DVD Blu-ray drive, which is probably the cheapest, best way to get both HD DVD and Blu-ray into your HD TV if you have $300 and a HT PC or home theater PC. I want to see how many letters I could say in a row. It looks like a DVD drive, big shock. And basically it looks like a little tiny, it's a serial ATA drive. Look, it's the Super Multi-Blue. It's the LG GGC H20L, or as Newegg refers to it, the LG Black 16X DVD plus R, 8X DVD plus R, W, 4X DVD plus R. It's like goes on for like 175 characters. That's actually what it's listed at in Newegg. It's $300. It's a serial ATA drive. It's the funniest name ever because they list like every form of DVD it can burn. It does quite a few things, but it won't burn Blu-ray or HD DVD discs. That's part of why it's so cheap compared to Blu-ray and HD DVD burners. It does support dual layers on both formats, and it can actually burn CDs and DVDs. So if you want like a Blu-ray HD DVD reader that'll burn DVDs and CDs, it's actually a pretty good option. Now, if you don't care about both HD DVD or Blu-ray, the Xbox HD DVD kit is the cheapest HD DVD drive out there, and Sony has a new Blu-ray only drive that's coming out later this year for under $200. Rumor has it's going to street for about $150, which is really cool, especially if it comes with the software. Speaking of which, there is no OS 10 HD DVD or Blu-ray playback software, period. Enjoy your Xbox.
You
and
win
your
this
PS3.
round.
Yeah, well, I run OS 10 too, so it's kind of frustrating. The drive comes with a slightly limited version of Cyberlink's Power DVD Ultra. That is pretty much, if you speak English, if you're in the United States, it's pretty much your only option for HD DVD and Blu-ray playback. Free version of it inside of there. If you want the full audio output, you're going to need to spend $100 for the Ultra version of Power DVD. You're going to need Windows XP, SP2, or Vista, Service Pack 2 on SP, as much processor you can throw at it, but a 3 gigahertz Pentium 4 or like an Athlon 64X2 3800 Plus should just make it run. It's amazing how much processor it takes to decode HD DVD or Blu-ray.
That's a lot.
You're like...
It's just a lot of acronyms and things.
I'm sorry.
And my brain with the cough medicine. And
your MacBook will decode this, or MacBook or MacBook Pro, I can't remember.
Pro.
Yeah, that has more than enough power to decode this if there was software available on OS 10. Nice. If you want to attach it to your HDTV that has HDMI inputs, you're going to need an HDCP ready video card and an HDCP ready display, or it's going to downsample the output to an analog format. And do yourself a favor. There's a really good, and look at that, we're actually playing the fabulous HD DVD mix right there. Which actually, what's really funny is their trailer doesn't actually seem to be in 1080p compared to the actual movie itself. But it's definitely, oh my goodness, it won't stop.
A good action shot. That's good.
Hillary Swank getting crushed. There we go. We're actually going to go into our task manager, and we're going to switch to our friend. Don't you love when a piece of software? There it goes. Out of full screen. That'll help. What's really cool, actually, Cyberlink has an advisor you can download. And it's really funny because the Cyberlink advisor tells us that we can't actually play Blu-ray or DVD on this machine because it doesn't have an appropriate graphics card. Apparently our 8300 isn't qualified, but it actually plays quite beautifully at 1080p video. And we just updated the driver, and it's still telling us the driver won't work. But despite this, actually, despite the increasing inaccuracy of the Blu-ray HD DVD advisor, it actually is pretty useful to tell you whether or not your card will work. And it works actually pretty well. All the HD DVD menuing is placed. Blu-ray works fine. Audio... Well, we're not even going to get into the whole audio output options on this. We'll do that on another time. But if you do buy one of these drives and have problems, chances are you're running like a VIA or a non-Intel chipset. Get a PCI-based serial ATA card to connect it to your system. And there are some problems. Cyberlink apparently is having some problems with their software. Pirates of the Caribbean and Dead Man's Chest, Curse of the Black Pearls, a couple of new ones. Apparently, Cyberlink hasn't released the Profile 1.1 support for Blu-ray yet, which is a little frustrating because they basically, the whole cracking of Blu-ray, and then they did the Profile update. And apparently the Profile, which is not controlled in the drive, it's controlled in the software, hasn't been completely updated yet. So...
Well, that whole audio thing does not sound very promising.
Well, what's interesting, right, is you can do, and partially it's like, because I have a very outdated home theater system, 5.1 doesn't seem to be an issue. I'm still playing around with that. 7.1 I don't think is an issue, but I don't have a 7.1 surround sound receiver. What's interesting is if you're looking for the true HD, the really high-end, the true Dolby stuff, the really high-end stuff, is it's still pretty much locked down, and you're going to need HDCP. And this is my understanding, HDCP 1.3 out of your graphics card, which as far as I can tell doesn't exist yet, to get that super high-end audio out of this thing. Surround sound, stereo is easy, surround sound shouldn't be a problem, but the super high-end bleeding edge stuff, which actually isn't even required on Blu-ray, but is on HD DVD, that we will talk about on another day. So if you have questions for us, any thoughts on the Blu-ray HD DVD drive, good idea, bad idea, some thoughts on the audio formats, if you want to talk more about next generation DVD, or if you've had enough of it, just tell us. Tekzilla at revision3.com. Yeah. All right, just want to remind our loyal viewers that this amazing episode of Tekzilla is sponsored by the fine folks at domain.com. Start with a domain name and build your web presence at domain.com. They offer affordable domain names, advanced hosting, and custom website design. The competition has teaser deals, but often requires you to bundle in more expensive services like hosting. At domain.com, you can register your domain name for just $8.75 and make it private for a mere $5 more. As a special offer to Tekzilla viewers, type in the coupon code TEKZILLA when you're checking out, and you will get a whopping 25% discount on domains and hosting. Check it out, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, Patrick, I think it's time to answer the viewer email. After all, isn't that the whole, purpose of the show?
We live for the questions.
To help people with their technology problems. That's what you people do around here,
and
right?
And to kill off.
So we got an email from Sam, and Sam wants to know, on the latest show, you showed an HDMI splitter. My problem is that my receiver only has 2 optical ports. Is there anything out there that will let me add additional devices to the world of surround sound?
Yes, actually there are. Ever seen a Toslink splitter or a Toslink switch?
I don't think so.
They're really weird. They're basically like a little box. And you can basically search around for them. It's basically a little box which multiple analog, multiple optical inputs, and it'll basically switch between the optical inputs and run them through to your machine. I want to see what actually the fiber looks like inside of that, because the whole concept of like switching visual just kind of fascinates me.
Yeah, the technology is really interesting.
Either that or I'm confusing like Toslink with the non-optical one, which is entirely possible.
Are there any other kind of options to that?
Well, I mean, there used to run into like sort of the RCA jack, where basically it was a digital electrical rather than a digital light, but most of them seem to be Toslink these days. So, yeah, I mean, there's a ton of switchers out there, but basically you're going to need a switcher that'll add additional optical inputs to your receiver. Did I get that right? Receiver or television? It all gets confusing. Our next email comes from Jack. He writes in, I've got a wanna-do live box, but it only has 2 Ethernet ports. Are there any Ethernet adapters for the live box? And if so, I need them cheap. Jack, who has to be writing in from like England or Australia, because a wanna-do box is kind of like either a cable or a DSL modem. And this is actually basically, so you've got like a cable modem or a USB modem. It's got like 1 or 2 Ethernet ports on it, and it's got DHCP, so it'll automatically assign an IP address to any computer that plugs in. If you want to add additional Ethernet ports, 2 really simple options: plug in a hub or plug in a switch, and it's just that simple.
Yeah, hub seems to be kind of the way to go.
Hubs are cheap.
Yeah.
They're not as fancy as switches. They don't control things, but man, they're cheap. 12-port hubs like $15 from the local computer shop. Yes.
I like anything under $20. Please, if you've got a question, suggestion, comment, or pics of some outrageous tech setup, send them on in. The address is always Tekzilla at revision3.com. And don't forget to check out previous episodes of Tekzilla, like the one where I played Guitar Hero 3. That was pretty awesome. They're just waiting to be rewatched at revision3.com/Tekzilla.
And we are in the market for a new female co-host. Unfortunately, despite the fact that many of you emailed in saying how fabulous Ms. Veronica Belmont is, she does have a full-time gig and cannot host the show every week. If you've got any ideas, or you live in the SF Bay Area, that would be the San Francisco Bay Area, and you want to try yourself out, send us your resume and your headshot to the fabulous Roger at revision3.com. That's our producer, with Tekzilla co-host in the subject line. More details will be placed on the site, and I gotta warn you, if you have a fabulous television or theater career, don't tell us that you have tremendous technical experience when you actually don't like computers or technology. It kind of comes out when you start talking to us. Get your geek on. Don't lie about getting your geek on. Oh, and for viewers in the LA area, check out the Southern California Linux Expo. That's called Scale, happening this weekend, February 8th through the 10th at the Westin Los Angeles Airport. Especially you open source fans, a lot of stuff going on from what they tell us. And next week, some amazing stuff lined up. Pringles can using a Pringles can antenna be any good for a long distance Wi-Fi connection, or is it time to give up the whole DIY antenna thing? What exactly is source code, and how do you turn it into something your computer can run? And what's going on with Windows and 4 gigabytes of RAM? Is there any point? Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for this episode of Tekzilla. Ms. Belmont, thank you so much as always.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's just so cool. And don't forget to watch Mahalo Daily, where Veronica features a new video every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Every day but Friday.
Yeah, we're lazy like that.
Do you get Fridays off?
Sometimes we put up shows on Friday, depending on what's going on.
What do you do on Fridays if you're not doing a video?
Mostly sleep.
That's so
Sleep
cool.
and play Warcraft.
I remember sleeping. Warcraft?
No.
Gold
What?
Farmer?
No? Huh?
Until next time, you've been watching Tekzilla. I'm Patrick Norton. She's Veronica Belmont.
Bye.
Good night.